Ancestors, healing hands, healing spirits, for your use and empowerment. Minister Ra Ifagbemi Babalawo. Part 1. EGUN, SHEPSU, Ancestor Communion. Our Lord has written the promise of the resurrection, not in books alone, but in every leaf in springtime. Those who are dead are never ever gone. They are there in the thickening shadow. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the tree that rustles. They are in the wood that groans. They are in the water that sleeps. They are in the hut. They are in the crowd. The dead are not dead. Those who are dead are never ever gone. They are in the breast of the woman. They are in the child who is wailing, and the firebrand that flames. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the fire that is dying. They are in the grasses that weep. They are in the whimpering rocks. They are in the forest. They are in the house. The dead are not dead. In Mother Africa, we may find that we have as many different names for the Creator as there are nations. Neither in Kemet, Olodumare among the Yoruba, Muntu among South Africans, Nyankopan among the Akan, and the list can go on. Along with these various conceptualizations of the great mystery, there is one more thing that you will find consistently across the board, a universal, monolithic belief in the process of living ancestors. No matter what you do or what kind of holocaust we are put through, you will find that Africans always did, and to this very day, have a belief and sense that the dead are not dead, that they can be contacted, and that they can exert a tremendous influence on the living. Now, with Africa being the land of the oldest humans on earth, and since all of her nations express a common experience, then this becomes a matter that modern Africans of the diaspora need to seriously investigate, or diaspora need to seriously investigate. African ways of life are based upon the study, observation, and application of the ways of nature herself. Much like the Turtle Island peoples, the Native Americans, our way of living is derived from seeking to imitate and synchronize our lives and behavior with that of the Creator as revealed through the dynamics of the processes of nature. If it is good enough for nature to follow a certain flow of expression, then it is good enough for us to do likewise. For the universe and nature are the greater, older, and wiser force, we the lesser. Lesser should follow the greater. The young should follow the elder. In line with this, we observed a most wondrous mystery. We saw that although a tree or plant would die, or more accurately, sleep, for a certain phase of time, it would miraculously come to life or become resurrected, again, more accurately, wake up at a different point. How could this be, dying and then returning again and again? After some contemplation of this phenomenon, we began to see parallel expressions of this death-return theme in all of life. The moon would be full and bright for 14 days, and then only to reappear, and then would wane and seemingly die or disappear for 14 days more, only to reappear and continue the same dance again. The sun would set and the sun would rise. After the abundance of spring, winter came, causing everything to disappear, only to reappear in the spring again. Even humans express this die and return rhythm every day. We would sleep for a span of time, appearing dead-like, yet we were still alive. Then we would wake up or come back to life when the sun rose. Beginning, climaxing, waning, and returning. Beginning, climaxing, waning, and returning. This seemed to be one of the major rhythms expressed in nature. Then, let's say we would find that our mother died. Like the moon, the tree, and sleep, she appeared lifeless and unanimated. The only difference between now and when she is asleep is that she does not, quote, come back to life as quickly. You see, when we observed the moon going black, the tree going dormant, we asked ourselves, where did this energy, this force go? Obviously, it didn't forever disappear, for the moon and the tree returned to activity after a while. When we fell into sleep, we realized that although our bodies were inert or dead, something else within us, not limited to the form, was quite awake and active. How did we know? Because we had dreams. We had experiences of being active and alive, but not on this plane. In this world where the body is active, there was another realm of life, another dimension, if you will, and in that dreamtime world, we had a body, but it was not made of flesh and bone. It was fluid and colorful. The world there was not solid and fixed, but magical and phantasmagoric. That world and its experiences and denizens were as real to that spirit body on the inside that could fly, change shapes, talk to animals, see people's thoughts and feelings, travel to galaxies beyond galaxies, as chopping a tree or getting burned was to this physical body. To our family and kin who watched us sleep, on the outside we appeared dead, yet to us we were far from dead. We were quite alive. Some part of us, therefore, seemed to survive. In Latin, sur means beyond, and vive means to live. The death-like period of sleep. Since death seems to be highly similar to sleep and winter, we intuited that dream part of us survived in the other world. The dream world in our bodies, like dead leaves, went to the underworld or into the earth, and coming springtime, they would spring back up, looking somewhat different from their parent tree, but having many of its same basic traits and qualities. I am sure you have heard people say that a little Shaniqua acts just like her grandmama, or has grandpa's eyes and temper. So although the form underwent a change, the essence of the tree lives on, remaining permanent, immortal, unchanging. So mother is not really dead. She is just on the other side. The side she would visit every night during her dreams. Dreams were return visits back to that world. Dreams were the moments where she could lay the foundation for the day when she would have to return to the other side to stay for a long time. Dreams are rehearsals for the time when the door back into our bodies would be closed, and we would have to remain in that world for a long season. But she was alive still, just invisibly to the physical eyes. Then something would happen. Her mate or her child would one day be sleeping, and while flying around in their dream body, would be greeted by mother. Mother would share with her mate her experiences of the big transition into that world. She would tell him how now that she is without a physical body that limited her mobility and abilities, now she could fly all around, do all kinds of magical and fantastic things, talk to the spirits of trees, plants, and animals, and still look over her family and people, just like when she would dream on earth. How for a while she rested and then saw all of the other people who had died, and saw that many of the people who stole were always being robbed, and those who were obsessed with things or sex were always teased with these things, but unable to have them. She would then tell me about the council, like the one they had in the village, that evaluated her life and rendered judgment upon her, and how people who live peacefully and compassionately while incarnated seemed to get a more uplifting verdict than the others. She revealed that all she had done while in the village on earth was known and reshown to her there in the dream world, and how the evaluation or grading was based upon the way she acted while on earth. She told how she saw like in a dream that she had years ago, herself being born from her mother's womb, and how before that moment, the same council appeared to her and showed her the highlights of her life to come and the divine way to handle and respond to them. Then these scenes were shown side by side with the way in which she actually responded. And the judgment was based upon an evaluation between the two. So she now counsels her family to follow the higher way they sense to react to life, so that when they die and have to face the council again, they can move on to the great village of light and peace. Here we see, then, the very natural and organic way that Africans begin to see that there is a reality beyond this life. There is nothing far-fetched about having such experiences. And I remind you that although many of the Western people may not substantiate or back up this view, your very own ancestors and cultural roots do. All Africans concur on the subjectively experienced objectivity of this reality. Whom shall you believe and follow? The Western world's view, the inventors of the Dark Ages, the Great Enslavement, the atomic bomb, the destruction of the ozone, seas, and natural kingdoms, or your ancestors, the oldest and obviously most spiritually adept and cultivated nations in the world? The choice is yours. Choose wisely. In Yoruba, the word for high ancestor is EGUN. EGUN, depending on the tonal inflection of the word, means high ancestor, he who sits up straight, backbone, or thorn. In the brilliance of wordplay, EGUN are those ancestors who sat firmly with righteousness as their backbone, and who are our backbone of uprightness that pricks us with thorns when we are slouching spiritually. In Kemet, ancient Egypt, the primary word for ancestor is SHEPSU for the plural. The word sheps also denotes light and wealth. To say that someone was wealthy was to say that they were sheps. What is the connection between wealth and ancestors that our foreparents encoded for their children in this word? What exactly is this wealth or light that the ancestors connect us with? The answer is exactly as it would seem. Wealth comes from our ancestors and from following the light of our ancestry. The wealth that manifests is a wealth of light or wisdom, and wisdom and light bring wealth. Conversely, we are being told that if we are poor, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and most certainly financially, it is because we are out of the wealth of the light of our ancestors. So whom, therefore, is poor in our view? Clearly a child of Africa who is following the ways and world view of non-Africans. Wealth cannot be separated from wisdom or light, and wisdom and light cannot be achieved without our ancestors. This is the teaching and the message. Here, quite unlike the modern Euro-Western worldview, wealth is a function of wisdom, of living in harmony with one's enlightened ancestors. This is a profound and far-reaching concept to the Black descendants of our glorious ancestors. Also, we are being shown the reality that wealth refers to various levels of abundance, physical and financial, for the Egyptians were not into poverty, beggarly living. Spiritual and intellectual, as in the light and wisdom or knowledge, and cultural wealth, knowing where one fits in the great scheme of things, and knowing who one is, who one was, and thus who one shall and can become. This modern idea of wealth being limited to one's bank account and unrelated to a person's character and duty to perpetuate the wisdom and excellence of their foreparents is completely anathema to the SHEPSU. The African view is that whether you know it or not, or acknowledge it or not, if you achieved any degree of wealth, be it you became rich, became wealthy with knowledge and degrees, or wealthy in spirit, unlike the Lone Ranger mythology of the Western, me, myself, and I did it all on my own, and I did it my way, expressing my individuality, individualistic kick. We did it with the loving and disciplining help of our ancestors. No person is an island, and those times when you just felt lucky or you sensed a helping hand opening doors for you, or fortunately blocking some doors that turned out to have been dangerous for you in retrospect, it certainly was a helping hand. It was the influence of your SHEPSU. You had better give them thanks and recognition if you don't want your good luck and achievements to destroy you, or if you want your bad luck to keep changing for the better. They are key to saving the African people and to pulling us out of poverty. It is not in new social reforms and programs, a new basketball center, or better legislation, although these things are nice. The key to freedom lies in invoking the power and force of the best of our past, of our people's ways into the lives of our family, children, schools, government, and communities. So let's say that you have a desire to help your people, just as the Black Panthers had, or our parents who fought during the civil rights. And by the way, as the SHEPSU have revealed, the reason that much of what was fought for in the 60s has not panned out fully in the ways desired in the long run is because these battles were fought without the invocation and involvement of the SHEPSU, EGUN, etc. Given the analysis of this word, you can now see the way in which you must go about enriching them. Get in touch with the wisdom and light of our ancestral culture. 2. Set up ancestral altars and ceremonies and invoke them through dreams and rituals, for it is our people's way to bring offerings to the dead, i.e., to do rites for them. And let me remind you that, although we contain some blood of the Europeans, we are predominantly African. And believe me, Africans believe in rituals and ceremonies. Not only Africans, but all other non-European peoples, the Native Americans, the Chinese, the Hawaiians, etc. These nations of color subsidize overt institutional SHEPSU invocations as such for the good of the nation and planet. Don't be fooled, however, so do Europeans. But more on the cloaked side. President's Day, the Jewish holidays, naming streets, cities, countries, products, diseases after their discoverers, memorial television, theater, musical programs like Elvis, Marilyn Monroe, Bonnie and Clyde, Jack the Ripper, Christopher Columbus, Sleeping Beauty, etc. all classify as what we shall call, on the sneak tip, ancestor invocations. These are all ways of instilling in their youth the memory and ways of their people. We must ritualistically do likewise, for there is no better way to get a point across than to tell it as a story or performance backed up by the ashe or energy of music, movement, and group participation. 3. Live, embody, imitate, and expand upon the best of our ancestors' ways. And 4. Have the ancestors open the gates of wealth to our people and to guide us in the wisest and most effective ways to help all of Earth's children live harmoniously, especially how to cause the Europeans, although it is by no means limited to them, for the spirit of this harmony can manifest in any person. But the Europeans have a history of consistently and culturally ripping the fabric of nature's balance to follow the wisdom of the elder races. For if we don't help them with this one, our lives and the lives of our children will be in peril. If the Euro culture keeps on the track that it is on, we shall die. Who exactly are the EGUN SHEPSU? The SHEPSU are those virtuous, godly ancestors who, because they sat at the feet of God during their earthly life, sit at the feet of God in their spiritual life on the other side. Sheps, as we previously mentioned, refers to light. Thus, Sheps are those foreparents who lived in light and sought to attain enlightenment. Those who had a firm enlightenment and a firm belief in the all-presence of God. Those who strove to live a life of virtue and good character, and this was key. Those relatives who sought to live in harmony with the forces of nature with each other, and who strove to embody, expand upon, and pass on the wisdom of their elders for the good of all. In a word, Sheps are those who strove to bring God, love, and his power into all levels of their lives. If you wish to become a SHEPSU when you translate Da, then you must act like one before you reach the big door. There is a saying among the Yoruba that clean buttocks is not hereditary, meaning that to become a divine honorable dead, you cannot sit on your laurels. You must earn it. It is easy to be negative, dark, and lazy, but to generate and spread light and positiveness takes hard work and dedication. Given this explanation as to what SHEPS is, we can see that there are different levels of SHEPSU. SHEPSU refers to radiance or light, and some SHEPSU have a larger, more powerful light than others. Those are called the Great SHEPSU or the Divine Immortals. To reach and attract them, one must be acting as they acted when they were on earth, i.e., one must be striving to live a saintly and holy life. Otherwise, your aura or spiritual energy will not be pure enough to attract or perceive them. As far as SHEPSU go, like definitely attracts like. If you are trying your best to live a life of good and noble character, you will magnetize similar SHEPSU to your person who will strive to aid and support your efforts. Remember, you never walk alone. This brings us to the next logical aspect of deceased beings, the dark deceased. The dark deceased, or hungry ghosts, are those people who have translated into the spirit world who were of a low and endarkened character. These are the people who were mean, ornery, negative, acting though if there never was a God. Depressed people, insecure people, rapists, liars, murderers, people of ill will, dark sorcerers, alcoholics, drug abusers, batterers, greedy and selfish people, and people who destroyed their bodies and lived against the laws of nature. In a word, people who lived according to their emotions, moods, whims, feelings, and self-centered dictates. These are spirits that one who is seeking light would not want to invoke into their lives. Imagine invoking a Hitler or a KKK member or a brother who run a drug racket, and you'll see what we mean. But beware. There are many ways to invoke a spirit around you. You don't have to sit down with some candles and a sacrificial animal to do an invocation. Your behavior and thoughts have the power to invoke spirits around you. I repeat, your behavior and thoughts have the power to invoke spirits around you. If you tend to entertain negative, vindictive, selfish thoughts, you create a vortex or vibration in your aura and thought sphere that dark spirits can spot a mile away. The energy that these negative thoughts give off actually feeds and fuels these negative spirits because once again, like attracts like. The danger in this is that if you persist in such mental and psychological games and patterns, the spirit will become attached to you and eventually actually compel you to continue to indulge in such low behavior because it knows that it can get a good meal off of your ungodly energy. All things have or give off energy or ashe. And if you're not giving off a light and godly force, then you are giving off dark or demonic negative force. And what? Like attracts like. I have seen cases where someone who has been negative most of their lives and are ready to turn over a new leaf encounter Mammothian bad luck. The reason is because the dark deceased spirits that have attached to them are fighting for their very lives and survival. And if you become a servant of God and light, then they can't feed off of you anymore. Since all things need to eat, and since most people don't sit around actively invoking and feeding the forces of darkness, then they have to get food somewhere. And why not you? You're a cheap and steady supply of negativity. It's quite a bargain for them. But the price is extraordinarily high to you, psychically, emotionally, and spiritually, whether you realize it or not. Simple physics tell us that no two things can occupy the same space at the same time. Where there is darkness, by definition, light cannot be. And where there is light, darkness cannot be. What we are saying here is that when you indulge in the dark side of the force, in your fears, angers, greeds, and egotism, your SHEPSU of light cannot approach or access you, for it is extremely difficult for them to do so. You will find yourself left in the woods to fend for yourself without a feeling of help or of a higher power. This is the true definition of loneliness. Conversely, as you stay and live in the light of good will and a life of good character, protective forces of light, the SHEPSU, surround and guide you. With your guardian angel, they give you the feeling of inner peace, power, protection, and good luck. You have a shield or halo that surrounds you and gives you a blessed helping hand. This does not mean that you won't have tests and trials, for even the gods had to go through tests. But you will find that you can make it through those hours of need with help, power, and dignity. Now, what about those people who are scoundrels and seem to be doing all kinds of wrong and getting over like a fat rat? Remember our story in the beginning of the book. The mother said that she met the council who laid judgment day upon her. Do not be deluded by appearances. Such people are in a serious and critical spiritual state of sickness. Just as there are some diseases where for years the person seems to be in perfect health and then, pow, they fall out dead or get hit with cancer. Such people are brewing a spiritual disease that may show no symptoms for years. But just as surely as the sun doth rise, they shall get hit and hit hard where it hurts the most. As far as God and the SHEPSU are concerned, crime does not pay. Does this mean that we just sit back and let such negative people continue to carry on and feed dark spirits? No. The best way to combat evil is to take energetic action in the good. No matter how dark or dim the forces around you seem, believe in a higher power and seek to shine in spite of it all. This is one of the surest ways of stepping onto the road of becoming a SHEPS. This is one of the classic tests of a would-be SHEPS. What do you do when faced with evil and fear? The answer is always to shine. Try to pull out your best and highest character, even if it means that you may lose face, your job, friends, who in this case would probably be more like friends or status. Nothing in the end is worth your spiritual light and dignity. Prayer and positive actions are the heroic and noble way. Don't give up, and please do not do anything. All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good people do nothing. Apathy is itself a form of evil. If you saw a child being brutally beaten and you did nothing to stop it, then your character is surely questionable. Also, some of the SHEPSU learn and can become inspired by your dignity and good character. You know how you feel when you see a young child trying their little best to do a good job at something. You know that they probably won't make it, but the sincerity and attempt to give their all stirs and moves you to love and admiration. The SHEPSU have the same experience when they see their children struggling, striving to reach for something higher and better. They feel inspired, and it moves them to want to help, look after, and support you all the more. Your sincerity creates a light or energy ache in your spirit body that warms and tickles the hearts of your SHEPSU. Keep striving. Keep praying for their support. Keep doing rituals to them, and keep trying to preserve the principles of the way of life that they fought to build and pass on to you in the face of all the pressures of this Western madness. And they will make sure that one day your ship will come in. Now, the dark deceased are not necessarily evil people. Once again, the wisdom of Kemet provides us with light. The word for evil in the ancient hieroglyphs depicts a horizon devoid of the sun. This shows us exactly what evil is. It is a condition where light is not. One who acts negatively is one who sees not the higher light. The sun is a symbol of light, enlightenment, hope, positivity, God. Evil occurs where light, a true sense of God and good character, is not risen. To have no light is to be in dark or to be blind. When the sun rises, what exactly does it illuminate? Everything. The sun shines on all of creation. When the sun is up, we can see everything. What's over here, over there, everywhere. We see many things that are interconnected in one glance. We perceive the oneness and place of all things, the whole. People in darkness simply have lost view of the fact that we are all one part of a whole. When someone murders another, they have forgotten that that person is part of the whole, part of God, part of themselves. When a people are enslaved unjustly, the enslavers are acting out of an endarked, myopic view of the fullness of life. Many spirits who are dark, deceased, are people who died violently or haphazard deaths. People who died suddenly in a war or who were a victim of bomb attacks, who were brutally attacked by mobs, or hanged and died during the Middle Passage in the humane galleys of the ships, or who had sudden, particularly violent accidents like in cars or planes and never received a proper burial can. All these can become dark deceased. They are also known as hungry ghosts. The reason they act so unruly and poltergeist-like, although they are not poltergeist proper, causing confusion, disruption, and negativity around you, is because they are hungry and starving, and like any desperate creature, may resort to all types of activities to eat and feed. For this class of spirits, we should have pity. I don't know how much of the crime and mayhem in society today is caused by such pathetic, needy spirits, inspiring negative behavior in those incarnated who have forgotten their own higher power. They need help. Pray for the good of all, and God will see that they are included. We all have an appointed time to translate back into the spirit world, and it is possible to die before your time through freak accidents, indulging in negativity, resentment, bitterness, ill will, breaking the laws of harmony in nature, bad medicine, or dark witchcraft, which can be anything from someone invoking demons on you to someone wishing you ill or setting to ruin your life out of anger, hurt, fear, or maliciousness. All of these things can weaken your connection to your SHEPSU, the light, if you are not in direct and consistent communion with them. The glyph for evil also holds the way in which we should in our hearts view people who are in darkness. Since it depicts a horizon, it is inevitable that at some point the sun will appear on that horizon. One day, that evil person will see the light. It may not be today or even in this life, but at some point he must, for the sun must rise in the horizon. So although we do not inure ourselves in their negativity, nor idly let it carry on, nor do we forget that they too are part of God's creations, and that God will one day rise in their hearts. Hate the sin and not the sinner. The sinner is someone who forgot, is in darkness about, that he or she is in fact God discovering himself. This is the source and dynamic of evil. Remember, God is potential in all things. So what does one do? As we have said, where light is, darkness by definition cannot be. So surround yourself with positive thoughts. Follow the higher road and experience your higher feelings of forgiveness, faith, strength, courage, patience, prayer, rituals, SHEPSU and light that will banish all darkness. Pray that light transmute the dark and that the spiritually ill and lost find their way home again. Whenever you feel a dark thought of revenge or jealousy blow by, let it do just that, blow by, and think thoughts of light and brilliance. Realign yourself with good character, which is an angel itself. Do not indulge the lower, affirm the higher. Keep your environment, physical body and mind clean and shiny. Invoke your SHEPSU, and most importantly, go to a trustworthy African priest or priestess to help firm the good up in you through prayer and rituals of good character. One day, with enough of us doing this, we will starve the dark, deceased beings to the point where they will either have to leave and go away or change and come into light. You can make that a living reality to pass on to your children, who are in fact SHEPSU, who are returning. Start today and do your very best. Goodness does pay. Ashe-o.